welcome to Women's Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne. My mission is to educate, inspire, and empower you all to step into your own life of wealth. That feeling of being so rich in your mind, body, and soul. I'm so happy to have you here. Let's get straight into it. Before the episode starts, I'm just jumping in to say hello, of course, welcome back. And please hit that like, subscribe button wherever you're listening or watching over on YouTube. Just a reminder that I do have my new YouTube channel, Wealth Rituals, where I'll be uploading very shortly yoga, meditation, breath work. There are some videos there for you already, as well as some bar classes, so we can start to work on our abs and booty together. This episode, I have an amazing guest, and we're going to talk about the importance of these rituals. So grab yourself a coffee, sit down, and let's begin. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Wealth with Joanne. I'm so happy to have you here in the garden. Beautiful day here in Dubai, and I have another amazing guest with me today, here to share her story. So I'm going to pass straight over to Victoria. Hello, Victoria. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm happy to have you here. So I'll let Victoria tell you all about herself, but just so me and Victoria work, I guess we work together. We pass each other. We work in the same studio. I teach yoga, of course. And I know you have a lot of things under your belt. I've seen. So I won't pigeonhole it, but we pass each other. I have a class and Victoria comes in after. So we have a passing each other at work relationship. But I know she has a fountain of knowledge, and yeah, I'll pass over to you so you can share, and then we can just dive deep. Let's see where the conversation takes us.
So, hi, my name is Victoria Roper, and I actually started off my career. I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I left school. I was quite into figure skating at the time.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted to become a professional figure skater, but my father kind of didn't think that was a great idea if I didn't have a degree behind me to quite literally fall back on. So I decided to do sports therapy at university, or sports therapy. And I went away to do that, and I absolutely fell in love with the course. I really didn't know what to expect, but I fell in love with it. And suddenly, from going from not really knowing what I wanted to do with my life other than ice skate, I realized actually I could help people, and I could make people feel better, and I could teach them about their bodies.
Yeah.
And it was kind of this, oh, okay, this is really, really cool. So I completed the degree. And then at the time when I went to do the degree, I was living in Dubai, went to do the degree in England, and then came back to Dubai because for me, Dubai is always home.
Yeah.
And I got this amazing job straight off the bat. Very, very lucky. Happened to be in the right place at the right time. There was really nothing else to it. At a great clinic here where I worked with osteopaths, other physiotherapists, neuromuscular massage therapists, and just this whole real multidisciplinary clinic where lots of other older therapists, more experienced, different expertise levels, took me under their wing. And I was just seeing some of the most amazing practitioners at work, which for a new practitioner is just phenomenal and so lucky. You know, not only am I getting paid to be there as an actual first job, but I'm getting this amazing work experience as well. Normally it's one or the other. I was lucky enough to both. So yeah, I worked clinically for a number of years, treating, yes, sports injuries, which was what I was most into, but also because of the multidisciplinary nature of the clinic, I was also treating random things like multiple sclerosis, and I was training clients with just regular back pain from their job and who weren't into sports at all. So yeah, I had this massive range of injuries, special populations that I was dealing with. And I have to say, I loved it. Some of my favorite memories are from the clinic, from the other practitioners at the clinic, from the patients, and my years there. And then within that clinic setting, the clinic was growing. And the manager at the time said, "Oh, I want a Pilates studio in my clinic. I've seen and heard about the benefits that Pilates and
Yeah.
rehabilitation guys together can bring." The problem was no one was qualified in the clinic to teach Pilates. So she sent us and highly recommended and suggested that me and my other colleagues went on a Pilates course. So we go off to do our first mat course. And I'm like, all of a sudden, I was like, day one, walked into the room, and there was an instructor trainer by the name of Michelle Scott. For Stop Pilates at the time. And I just went, oh my God. She was just one of those people that you look up to and you're like, geez, she's inspiring. And I just went,
Did you do Pilates? Had you ever done? Oh,
I'd never done a class. I'd never even, I think I'd had a bit of a trial session with one friend one time who was
yeah.
doing a teacher training course. But in terms of a very structured, a proper class, no, I had never. So it was very, and that's, now if a client came to me and goes, I'm thinking of doing a Pilates teacher training course, and they've not ever done a class, I'd be like, whoa, hold on, slow down, go and do a class, make sure it's something you actually enjoy and
Yeah.
you are interested in. But no, me being me, I just jump on in there, both feet. And so meeting Michelle, who was the instructor trainer, I went to my colleague, that is what I want to do. And she went, what do you mean? And be an instructor trainer? You've got an amazing job at the clinic. And she goes, and I said, no, I want to become an instructor trainer for Pilates. I want to teach other Pilates instructors how to become Pilates instructors,
Yeah.
whether it's videos or not. And so that's how that Pilates journey started. I went through my
Wow.
mat training, my reformer training,
Yeah.
chair Farrell. And then I became an instructor trainer for Stop Pilates and was really lucky enough to travel around the world with it, teaching and
Yeah.
training
Oh,
instructors
wow.
for Pilates. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, fast forward to now, I kind of marry the two. I've got this beautiful balance, very, very lucky to have created this beautiful balance between me teaching my own classes at the studio where we cross
Yeah.
over, me teaching private clients still at their homes and training them, but also having an online business which trains Pilates instructors and deepens their
Yeah.
knowledge about the human body.
Wow. And I think that is just side note to do me doing my Pilates training is on my to-do list.
Mm.
So I'm getting married this year. So there's a lot of things that are on the to-do list that under sort out the wedding, pay for the wedding, do the dress. So at the moment it's all wedding, 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 and everything else is kind of adding to the list because, and I'm sure you'll go into all of this now. And I feel like Pilates has had sort of like a rebirth, I guess, that it's been around for so long, and you can tell us about the history because I don't know, but I feel like everyone, well, a lot of people in my sphere and my clients and people who come to yoga are actually realizing that, oh, okay, so yes, it's a workout. However, there's all of these other positive side effects, benefits that come with doing an exercise class. Like it's not just about let's get ripped, and there is the benefits for joints, muscles, core, mental health, all of the things. So I'm sure you can tell us a little bit more about that.
You're right. It's absolutely booming at the moment. There's not only here in Dubai where we are, there's studios popping up everywhere. And when I was teacher training and doing their initial qualifications, the courses were full and we were churning out hundreds, if not thousands of teachers a year.
Yeah.
And it's like I thought at some point the market has to be saturated, but it's so popular. All the benefits that you just highlighted,
Yeah.
the improved balance, improved strength, improved stability, just that mind body connection. Like you can go and spend a 55-minute Pilates class or however long your class happens to be. And because it's so mind body focused and connected, you can't be thinking about what time you have to pick the kids up from school and what you grocery store. You have to be very, very present and in
Yeah.
your body and thinking about what am I feeling here? What's the sensation that I'm feeling? Why is this side better than the other side? And
Yeah.
all of those little things. So I think for a lot of people, it's almost a form of meditation for a lot of people, which in today's really busy world and our busy lifestyles is what a lot of people crave, whether they know
Yeah.
it.
Sure. Yeah. And I think even just, and obviously as a yoga teacher, when I do Pilates as well, it's challenging. And I would say, well, you would assume that, and and I know that when Pilates teachers do yoga and they kind of work alongside each other. But just thinking like, oh yeah, I've got a strong core. And I remember when I did your class and I was like, oh my God. And you were like, say 10 more. And I was like, Jesus, I can't. I can't do it. But it is that then, right? No, I'm in this mindset. And you go through that the burn, the fire that comes with Pilates. And then afterwards, and even the next day, and I do go to the gym and I work out, but that next day after the Pilates class, I don't think I could even laugh because my
Yeah.
abs were, I was just like, oh my God, what has she done to me? But
It's so subtle, the way that it works.
yes,
So you're never going to have, sometimes after a gym workout, you've got that muscular soreness where you're like, oh, I can't sit down,
yeah,
or it hurts
yeah,
to stand up, or it hurts to bend over. And we all, it's not necessarily, well, it definitely isn't the sign of a great workout, but
yeah,
we all kind of
yeah,
crave that feeling. We love it if we're telling the truth.
yeah,
Um, but Pilates, you're never going to get that same sensation because of the different way that it works the fibers of the body and the
yeah,
tissue, the mind body connection, and the breath, and just everything together and the effects that it has on all of the systems of the body. But yet, all of those systems influence one another. So
yeah,
you can't take just breath really and work on just breath. You're having an effect on your emotions, your lymphatic
yeah,
system, your pelvic floor, your whatever it might be. Everything is influenced by something else in the body.
yeah. And so I know I might get the name wrong. Is it Joseph Pilates? Is he the, okay, yeah, God, I knew that bit. So
Joseph
how long?
Curtis Pilates, to be exact.
Ah, okay. And so like I say, it has been a long, when did it start? So how long has it actually been?
Joseph Pilates was around in the 1900s. I can't remember the exact date off the top.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Long time ago. So
Yeah.
he was a German guy, and he was quite a sickly child. So
Okay.
yeah, so his I think his dad, it was his dad that got him into boxing. His mom was a dancer, so he had that kind of dance influence, and we see that in Pilates
Yeah.
today. And I think it was during the Second World War he was interned. Might have been the first. I don't got him
Yeah.
history.
Yeah.
And he actually, while he was interned, he played around with the bed. He took the springs off, and those are the springs that today we see in the reformer. So he started
Oh,
adding resistance. So he was training all of his peers around him at the time, and it's all of those people that didn't get sick and didn't get malnourished and didn't die
oh,
of horrible things that were
yeah.
floating around at the time. So he created this, if you like, method that he called contrology. And it had 6 basic principles, and it's basically was classical Pilates.
Yeah.
So what the Pilates that you often see today, if it's not labeled classical, it probably is a more contemporary approach.
Yeah.
Just with what we now know, medical science, we
Yeah.
have moved on slightly. But it's really funny actually to Google videos of Joseph teaching. He was really quite brutal in his corrections. Now that's not necessarily wrong, because what he knew then is not what we know now. So,
Yeah.
but it's funny. He taught in his little pants, what you and I guess would call Y fronts now. And I read a book called Caged Lion, which is written by a guy about Joseph Pilates. And when Joseph Pilates, I'm fast forwarding here, I'll go back in a
Yeah.
second. When he opened his own studio in New York, he would think nothing of, after a session of, being quite brutal with people and telling them they didn't know how to breathe and they needed to work on this and 10 more and this and that. He'd think nothing of, apparently, according to this book, getting in the shower with them and showing them how to scrub their body. Things that now we just go different times,
Yes.
different times.
So you
But
don't offer that after a class then?
yeah, but before he went to New York, so he went to New York on a boat, and he on the way over there he met his wife Clara, and she was a dancer. So they started to then work together with her dance background and
Yeah.
his psychology knowledge and his classical Pilates knowledge and they worked with the New York City Ballet to work with the dancers
Oh,
who,
wow.
let's face it, dancers are injured pretty much
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
because of their grueling schedule. And him and Clara worked with them.
Wow.
Two
Oh my
super.
God. That is like the perfect mix.
I know. And you can see like there's a lot of some of the terminology in Pilates now is very dance based, and some of the
Yeah.
choreography and the footwork and the things like that is very dance based. So you can see elements of that coming through.
Yeah.
You can see like the bed springs are in the reformer and
Yeah.
things like that. And it is nice to know the history about where it
Yeah.
came, because I think there's a lot of instructors who we always go in, I'm quite mean, and I always go into an initial training, and I'll say to them on the first day, like, okay, what do we know about Pilates? And I'll just, we'll have a mind map up on a
Yeah.
whiteboard, something like that, of what they currently know and what they, it's the first day, so I don't necessarily expect them to know
Yeah.
anything. There's nothing there, but we get quite a few words up and quite a few ideas. And then at the end of the course, which I believe is about 10 or 12 days, give or take, we'll go,
Yeah.
okay, what do we now know about Pilates? And that's when they're expected to know, because we teach the history of it, because it's
Yes. Yeah.
important. And what I'm seeing a lot of now, I don't work with one Pilates brand anymore.
Yeah.
I for myself, and I invite instructors to come and work with me from any brand, if
Yeah.
and we'll work on the gaps in their knowledge. But what is happening now, and it's really sad to see, is that because we're in a world that wants quick fixes and they want things yesterday,
Yeah.
um, people are often taking, a weekend course online, and they'll never have taught a
It's,
hands-on or in-person client. And that, whether it's Pilates, or I'm sure you agree with this, on yoga
yeah.
training or personal training on the gym floor, I feel quite strongly about this, in that I don't think you can be a great coach online unless you've had that in-person experience.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. You do need to have had that. And even just understanding the background and where it comes from, that it's not just a physical practice that doesn't have, his wife being a dancer, and understanding like, wow, so we've got that knowledge, and his knowledge of using the bed springs that he's had to, in the controlology, and having that understanding, like even now, next time I do a class, I feel like, wow, so this has come from XYZ, and having that knowledge rather than just like, oh, okay, quick online course and off we go.
Yeah, and it's, I don't want to diss any profession or diss the online courses. Maybe do them, but use them as very much as a springboard. And
Yeah.
then make
Yeah.
sure because the holes in your knowledge. So I have a lot of instructors that come to me, and I always tell them the same thing. The holes in your knowledge are not your fault, but they are your responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
To
Yeah.
now ask me questions, ask me for book
Yeah.
recommendations, ask me for mental recommendations. I can
Yeah.
send you in the right direction, but it is your responsibility to fill in those holes in the knowledge. And that's where I started to bring together not only my physical therapy knowledge, but my Pilates
Yeah.
as well, to create these online courses. And,
Yeah.
like for yesterday, I did an in-person course, which was really, really nice to do.
Yeah.
And just because in a Pilates qualification, you are purely learning Pilates. You're
Yeah.
learning the repertoire. You're learning, if you haven't done your anatomy and physiology, you're learning a little bit of that as well. What you're not learning is how to deal with knee injuries, and what happens if you have a pregnant woman in your class, and the
Yes.
things that happen every single day in the studio.
Yeah. Yeah. I can vouch for that. Sometimes you have this whole class planned out, and then there's a knee injury, there's a back injury, someone is pregnant, there's a beginner, brand new, hasn't done any before, doesn't really exercise, and you kind of, dealing, then you kind of thinking on your feet, and like, how, and you wouldn't be able to do that online. Teaching online, I find it harder actually to teach online, because I like being there, and obviously you're just kind of directing when it's online. And I do have some online students, but I also see them in person. Like we switch between, um, because again, you have that hands-on. So let's talk about the benefits, and particularly through your methods and your teachings of the physical therapy and Pilates. Like what kind of things, like outcomes have you seen of people coming to you with certain ailments, and what are they working through?
Well, with the Pilates, I mean, it's amazing because I pretty much treated everything with Pilates, but I think in the background, whether I know I'm using it or not, I'm always using that physical therapy
Yeah,
knowledge.
yeah,
So I worked with a swim team back in the clinic of young amateur swimmers, and they were because of their training schedule, they were training really hard, really long hours, all in the swimming pool. They were doing no what I call rest and recovery
yeah,
exercise. And by that, I don't mean just lying on the floor or lying on the
yeah,
couch resting. It's like complementary exercise to
yeah,
what they do at the pool. So it was getting them doing that kind of stuff so that their incidence of injury and their seriousness of injury as well wasn't so high. So it's great for shoulders, it's great for backs, it's great for anything. I've got a lady right now who she has multiple sclerosis, and the reality is that's a slowly degenerative disease, and
yeah,
it's not going to get better. And
yeah,
but we can manage her symptoms the best we can. And she started coming to a beginner reformer class, and she could barely stand on one leg without falling over. And now she's in the intermediate class. She's standing on the box on one leg. She's doing lunges. She's a full on keeping up with the rest of the class.
yeah. Wow, that's so amazing. And I
So
guess it's that for her, that's going to, it's not just, she's keeping up with the rest of the class in that reform class, but just think of how much better her life is outside with MS. I used to be a care worker and work with people with MS, and just see how sometimes quickly it can also progress. And going 1 week and the lady's walking around and being able to hold her tea, and then just a few weeks later, not, having to have her tea in a beaker with a lid, and she sat down and not being able to hold that. And I can just, well, it's too, that was a few years ago now, but just thinking if she was prescribed Pilates. I don't know if that's a thing. If the doctors, could
yeah, it's
prescribe to go, is it?
I mean, I think honestly, like back pain, there's been so many studies on back pain, for example. And actually, the reality is any movement helps back pain. It
Yeah,
doesn't have to be Pilates. I'm just
yeah,
obviously slightly biased.
yeah,
Any movement will help with back pain.
yeah,
So could they be lifting weights? Sure, they could. Could they be doing yoga? Of course, they could. Could they be cycling? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also about finding something you enjoy and
yeah,
something you maintain. Because if you get on the reformer and you think, oh my God, this is so boring, then I mean, I've never actually met anyone that said that,
yeah.
but
No. I don't know
then,
how anyone could find it boring, because you're on it, you're there, and you can't. There's no time to be bored, and
yeah.
there's the burn.
Yeah. I think I would never say to someone, only do Pilates. Come to
Yeah,
Pilates 7 days a week. Don't take any days off. These are things that I'm never going to say. I would say, could you include some kind of Pilates or therapeutic exercise or complementary exercise within the regime of what you already do? So,
yeah,
for example, with those swimmers, if you're a swimmer and you're swimming, I mean, they were doing so much. Say they're doing 3, 4 days a week. They weren't. They were doing like 9 times a week. But for argument's sake, let's go 3 to 4 days a week. The other 2 days a week, could we do some kind of, even I had them doing restorative yoga at one point because
yeah,
their nervous systems were shot.
yeah. I can imagine.
Shot. They were in the pool 9 times a week.
God, so the twice a day, some days then.
Twice a
Oh
day
my
too.
God. Oh my God. And I've seen as well that Pilates is very popular now with footballers.
Yes, I'm seeing this as well. It's hilarious to watch some of the
Yeah.
posts on Instagram because they just bless
Yeah.
them. These guys are clearly very fit.
Yeah.
And they're clearly very strong. But it's one of the Pilates is hilarious because it's one of those you can have. I've worked with CrossFitters as well who are super strong and
Yeah.
super fit. And it's like, it's going to the other end of the spectrum. So if you take
Yeah.
someone like me who loves all the figure skating and all the artistic sports and all the Pilates and take me into a CrossFit gym, I'm a bit of a disaster, to put it nicely. But if you take a CrossFitter and I've put them on the
Yeah.
reformer, give them not a heavy spring, and the instructors here will know what I'm talking about, barely, maybe no springs, or at best a white spring, and have them do long stretch or a plank position or anything like that, they're all over the place.
Yeah.
They cannot do it because
Yeah.
they don't know how to move, how to tension their own body without that enormous amount of compression.
Yeah. It's crazy. I can vouch for that as well, having CrossFitters in yoga. And sometimes you can tell that they're coming and they're like, oh, this is going to be easy. It's going to be a stretch. And they've got this aura about them. And it's like, yeah, and you can, they'll probably tell you that they do CrossFit. And like, I can tell by looking at you. And when it comes to planks or down dog, and then they're looking around at these women who they see as being, they're not muscly and they're not, these women are not strong. Look at them. And then just the difference in the class is it's quite funny from a teacher's point of view though, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
like, yeah. You can see their
But
ego.
it's
Come on.
exactly what they need to add in.
Yeah,
Again, we're not asking them to become Pilates people
yeah,
overnight. We're asking them to start off with one session a week. If you can go to two, fantastic. Most
yeah,
of so I pretty much predominantly work with females now. It just seems to be the way it's gone.
yeah,
Most of my private clients now do, for the best results, do 2 to 3 days a week of weight training and 2 to 3 days a week of Pilates. So they're working out 5 days a week. That might be a 2 to 3 split, depending which way it
yeah,
goes. And they're having 2 consecutive rest days where they
yeah,
maybe just go out for a nice long walk, or and because the women that I work with are anywhere between kind of 35 and I would say 65.
yeah,
Um, and they, are going through different hormone changes, um, whether they want it or not, it's happening. And I think, equipping them with heavy weight. So I'm big into resistance training, but they have to know how to position their body and how to move their body before we add weight and intensity into the equation. And
yeah,
you and I are in the fitness industry, so we live around people doing squats and lunges and moving their body, and we know what that looks like. But it's actually quite surprising the amount of people that don't know how to squat, don't know how to get up and down off the floor without using their hands, and can't stand on one leg.
yeah. We kind of take it for granted, don't we? Sometimes, and you're like, oh, okay, I need to just remind myself that this is something that we need to learn. Just going back to women in particular and using Pilates as a form of exercise through their hormonal stages. So for somebody listening to this, we'll just go through the generals. They might be in their mid 30s to mid 40s, maybe feeling some hormonal changes, noticing when they're working out, maybe perimenopause or on the cusp. What would you suggest for them, and what kind of mixture with the weights and Pilates, and how can it help with sort of that phase?
So 35 to 45 is the decade where you have to be doing something.
Mm.
Otherwise, 60 is not going to look pretty.
Yeah.
And I don't mean visually, I mean
No,
health
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
being able to go up and down the stairs and not falling and breaking something. So, women as we age, well, men as well, but women more so because of the lack of estrogen and the decline of estrogen will lose muscle mass and bone strength um, in our bodies. Now, other things are going on as well, like our heart health and our brain health and all these things. But in order to combat the erraticness of the hormones in that decade, because it is that perimenopause
yeah,
decade, in order to help manage that, there's obviously lots of things we can be doing, such as supplementation, such as looking at gut health, such as
yeah,
looking at potential hormone therapy. And I've got women, specialists that I work alongside that I refer out to, because I'm not a specialist in any of those things, but I
yeah,
do know a little bit about the hormones and enough to be able to see a woman that I work with and go, I really want you to go and see this person
yeah,
to work on your gut health, or because the gut health has a huge amount to do with the hormonal balance as well. Um, So yeah, from my standpoint, where I come in with the physical work is I'll start introducing Pilates first and foremost, because if they don't know how to move their body, they have to learn that first. Again, their nervous systems might be shot. Their nervous systems might not be able to handle resistance training or
Yeah.
weight or anything too intense right now. What I find, a lot of women who come to me, they come to me because what they're currently doing is not working. But what they're currently doing is what they were doing in their 20s.
Yes.
And that's why it's no longer working, is because, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but you're no longer in your 20s. So I have to, be realistic with them and go, okay, I know you love boot camp classes or high
Mm.
intensity classes. And I'm not saying never do that again, but what I am saying is, could we maybe not do that 6 days a week?
Yeah.
Could we? Yeah, they'll be going every single day to try and lose the, an inverted commas here, belly fat that they've gained, but they haven't changed their diet.
Yeah. Yes.
They don't understand why, and it's this vicious cycle because they're getting more and more stressed about it, and as we
Yeah.
all know, cortisol helps encourages belly fat, so it's this
Yeah.
vicious cycle. So it's, they come to me almost as a last resort because they've tried what they hear online and what the gym culture, if you like, sells them.
Yeah.
um, but that's often aimed at 20-year-olds and early
Mm.
30-year-olds, not at the perimenopausal woman. So
Yeah.
it's finding someone who really knows what they're talking about to work with. And like I say, whilst I'm not any kind of specialist in the area of hormones, I have a doctor on hand that I will go, you need to go and see her.
Yeah.
Talk to you about that. If I think that's necessary, it's probably not necessary that early on, but at least go and have the conversation.
Yeah.
And so I would work with them Pilates, get them breathing properly, because majority of them don't even breathe properly. So we really are
Yes.
stripping right back to basics. I
Yeah.
would actually refer some of them to you and some
Yeah.
yoga, because I think a lot of them just need calming down. Their nervous systems are shot. That's why you're gaining belly fat and you just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Once we've started to get things under control, I'll have them walking between 10 and 12,000 steps a day, every single day. That is meditation in itself.
Yeah.
Once we've nailed all that, and I've kind of had a word and made sure with them that their hydration is on point and then that nutrition is on point. And again,
Mhm.
diploma in sports nutrition. Whilst I'm not saying I'm a specialist, I can check the basics are in
Yeah.
place. And if I think they need further help, I'll refer them on.
Yeah.
Then I will start to add in weight training, because
Yeah.
as you said at the start, I've got a lot under my belt. I did a personal training qualification when I went back to the UK in 2019. And that was really helpful for me just to kind of add that in.
Yeah.
So now I blend the Pilates, the weight training together for my female clients. So we'll do a set of weights and then a few Pilates exercises, another
Yeah.
set of Pilates.
That's so, yeah, you've got like the perfect mix there. And I think a lot of women, and hopefully now listening to this, they will understand that, like you said, these HIIT classes, yes, they're good and you might enjoy it, but if there's certain things you're noticing in your body, or, that feeling after, like I do one HIIT class a week, not every week, not religiously. But I used to be the one that would go to in the UK, it was called gorilla training. I was picking the tires up and smashing them with the hammer. And like now, even just the thought of that, I'm like, oh my God, because I know that how I felt after my cortisol levels were through the roof. And I would leave feeling like, oh my God, I can't even explain it, that my nerves were just shot from doing those classes. But I used
Yeah.
to, because that's what everyone was doing and it was a big trend at the time. And I was like, yeah, I need to be going and doing this as well. And, get the big bone and the muscles. And then I actually started to learn about my body and think, right, okay, that's never going to happen because that's not my build. And, my bone structure is small. I'm learning about my own hormones and why are my hormones all over the place? It's because I'm putting myself in these stressful situations and with my workout. And that's when I started then I had a bad back because I wasn't doing it properly. And then I fell into yoga and I was like, oh, okay, this is how I need to breathe when I'm actually moving my body. because I think most of the time I was probably holding my breath through all of the exercise because it was so hard and I was, it wasn't doing anything for me. And then once I switched and then realized, oh, my hormones are all over the place, my periods are heavy because I'm not actually doing what's good for my body. I'm doing what's good for their body. And I hope that makes sense. And having to let go of that. And now I still do a little bit, when I'm in HIIT though, I still don't smash the running no matter how hard they're telling me behind 16, 17, 18. I'm on 12. I'm having a nice little run and I'm not allowing my cortisol levels to go through the roof because I'm just running because I enjoyed this little 10-minute run and then I'm going to do the weights and I'm going to do it in my own pace. So exactly everything you've just said, but it's a learning curve. Do you find that some women don't really want to
A lot of people
encourage?
don't are not, they do not love me when I say, all right, we're going to strip it back. We're going to
Yeah,
do Pilates, twice this week. You're going to walk the rest of the time, and that's it. And
yeah,
they really struggle because they're used to that. They're tired and wired. So the
yeah.
women who come to me who
That's a
we've
perfect way. That's what that was me, tired and wired, and I was wondering why nothing was working.
also the women who are really struggling with their sleep at night because their
Yeah,
cortisol is through the roof. What a lot of people are actually saying now is that, and what one of my amazing mentors is seeing is she's like, actually, a lot of women now are so tired and wired that their cortisol is rock bottom and never actually goes up because
oh,
they're so shot, they're so tired, and it's
yeah,
really interesting, so yeah, a lot of women are tired and wired, and they're on this kind of, they're operating on this odd level, on this odd frequency where they want your help, but at the same time they don't want to listen to you.
yeah, yeah. And there's also as well when you add in, and I'm just thinking about myself, and when I was a school teacher and I was stressed at work, and then I was putting myself through all this stressful workouts as well, and it's just a pot of stress, and it's having that time to reflect on, actually, I've had a really stressful day today. Do I really want to go and flip tires and push myself to the limit, or do I want to go and do a Pilates class where I can actually focus on my body and focus on my breath, or even slow it down even more and do a restorative yoga class? Because it's not lazy, it's not a rest as such. You're restoring your body. That's why it's a restorative process. And like you said, it's not, what did you say, recovery and rest? Oh, I should have wrote it down.
I call it rest and recovery. And a lot of people
Yes.
from that, and I have to always explain because that means different things for everybody.
Yeah.
It has a different
Like you say,
meaning.
rest is not necessarily lying on the sofa and watching Netflix. Like when you say to someone you need a rest, and they're like, "Oh no," I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not that kind of rest." Yeah. So explain yours. Go on. You'll explain it better than I just did.
Me, for like, I'm going to use myself as an example
Yeah.
because for me, when I say I need a break, that means I need to take a week away from my home country, remove
Mm,
myself entirely from the situation. My phone goes off. I don't look at my messages. I put my like or out of office reply on my emails, and I go somewhere, maybe Thailand, maybe Bali, maybe something gorgeous like that. And or it might be the East Coast here in Dubai where we have a beautiful mountainous
yeah.
area. And I remove myself from even my home situation. And I think I don't know if that applies to everybody because for me, I have my own business online. So the laptop's always there. It's always very,
Yeah.
very easy. Open your laptop or your phone and check your emails. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, if you're having a break, you're
Yeah.
having so rest and recovery for me would mean full on removing myself. If
Yeah.
I apply that to exercise, it would mean a long walk.
Yeah.
Even for me, a Pilates class is a workout for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, I think it's a long walk or maybe a day at the beach where I'll go for a long walk, I'll go for a swim, I'll go for a long walk, I'll go for a swim, get in the water to cool down, that's
Yeah.
a rest and recovery day. For some people, depending on their athletic level, like the swimmers, their workouts were their swims, their rest and recovery was restorative yoga and training, dry land training, as we called it.
Yeah.
So doing, rehab exercises for their
Yeah.
shoulder. It wasn't terribly taxing, but it was probably more mentally taxing for them
Yeah.
because it wasn't going through the motions of what they already knew how to do.
Yeah. And that rest is so important. And I can think of some people, you know, clients, students that come to class, and you can see it in them that they're not missing any classes. They've got them all booked in, and that you can tell that they're tired, but they have this structure. And sometimes just relax, just take it easy, just turn the dials down just a little bit, because you're going to notice so much difference in your overall health by just allowing yourself to have that rest and recover. But again, it doesn't need to be sit on the sofa and eat pizza unless that's what your body
Yeah.
is telling you. Some days you do get that, like, do you know what, I am just gonna sit. For me, it's sitting in the garden. I'll sit in the garden, and
Mm.
phone is away, laptop is away, you know no, nothing electronic, and I'm reading in the garden, and then maybe I'll go for a walk, because I need that mental de-stimulation as well, and I want to just be quiet sometimes. And that, for me, then the next day I feel like a completely different person. But I would never used to give myself permission to do that, because I'm like, you can't sit still, you can't sit in the garden, you've got to be on your Instagram sending emails and checking up on what's going on all of the time. And as a yoga teacher as well, what's skipping a yoga day? That
Yeah.
again, I wouldn't have done it, because I'd be like, oh no, I can't, I have to go and do it. And until I realized that no, it's more detrimental pushing yourself to do these things.
Yeah. I feel
So
that.
I'm guessing for ladies who you work with then, who are 45, 50 plus, their schedule again will change from that. So just a brief overview of, if there's ladies listening to this who, have reached that menopause box, and they're wondering, how can they switch their workouts if they're still in the mindset of hit cardio, push yourself, even though you feel like crap.
So menopause is defined as is actually one day, and it's the one day that is 1 year after your last period.
After, yes, yeah,
The next day, you're postmenopausal.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
gosh,
and the average age of perimenopause now is 51 or 52.
yeah,
But that can be so different. That can vary.
yeah,
I spoken to women who are 20, 28 years old and in early menopause. That's very early, obviously.
that is it.
I've also spoken to 61-year-old women, and she's still having regular periods. So
Wow,
it can vary hugely.
yeah,
Um, but generally speaking, once they get into menopause, honestly, not that much changes then. I would still have them doing Pilates to work on balance, to work on
yeah,
stability, work on breath. I would still have them weight training. So actually, what we tend to prescribe, the ideal week looks like in perimenopause, doesn't change hugely for me in
right,
menopause. It really doesn't. It's you're just preparing your body for what's to come, because like I said earlier, it's happening whether we want it or not.
yeah, yeah,
And we're in this amazing, I feel like this time period now is amazing, where because of social media, we've got access to all these amazing specialists. And I'm happy if you want to put some of the names of the women that I
yeah,
read in the show notes. There's more so in the States, they're kind of more geared up for it than they are in the UK. But I work with amazing specialists all over the world, and I've purposely handpicked these mainly women out because they're phenomenal at what they do. And I'm
mm,
so lucky to be able to then say to my clients, you need to go to that lady because she's
yeah,
phenomenal. You need to see that doctor because she's phenomenal, and she will help you if you
yeah,
listen to her. If you ignore her, then obviously that won't work out so well.
yeah,
But yeah, so not that much changes once you get, obviously you stop cycling.
yeah,
And if you happen to be, I think hormone doctors will check once a year anyway, the levels that they give you.
yeah.
Obviously is for that specialist to do.
So it's a lot about, and I've spoken about this before, but it's more from now. If you're listening to this, it's preparing, supporting,
Yeah.
and I think this is something that we're not really ever, well, no one's ever said it to me in my 20s that, right, okay, what you do now, when you're in your 20s, you're kind of just like, yeah, whatever, I'm never going to be 30, never going to be 40, never, you don't think about it. And I think if you are younger, and you're listening to this, that really what you do now is going to make the future, like you said, 60 look amazing.
because you've supported, you've learn about your body, you've got the breath work, you know when to rest, you know what exercise you need to do on what day and when it feels good and the diet. So it's just supporting your health. And I think we are learning more how to do that. I think it's more common now, isn't it, for women to, we are looking at what we're doing as I call it longevity or old lady body. So this is what I strive for, my old lady body. Like what I'm doing now, I want to be, there's a lady that I follow there's a few actually, a few ladies in their 80s that I follow on Instagram, and they are jumping up, nothing crazy, but jumping up the stairs and, getting their shopping out of the car, and it's heavy bags, and they'll make a joke of it. They take the heavy bags off someone who's trying to help them down the street. I'm like, that's what I want. I want strong wrists. I want my knees to still be strong. I want to still be able to sit tall and have that. And again, Pilates and all the things you've mentioned today can support that. And it's really, let's step into our old lady body era, I guess, if that, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
supporting my old lady body era.
Yeah, we should make that into a hashtag.
Yes.
And but because that interplay between our hormones, not just estrogen and progesterone, but testosterone as well, it's
Mm.
often gets forgotten, and we have it. It's the most
Yeah.
prevalent in a female's body, above estrogen and progesterone, and but building muscle supports the interplay between estrogen and progesterone. So,
Mm.
and we need that. If you don't have enough muscle, then that's when those hormones just go completely haywire and
Yeah.
send you, you'll know how that feels from a very young age. And, I'm not saying that you won't have symptoms, but you can definitely help to manage them.
Yeah. Because you've got the health there to manage them. So when the symptoms come along, your body's able to, you know, like a conveyor belt of, yeah, I can look after that. Yes, this is happening, but we've got the backup in the backpack. We're ready for it. So whatever comes along, you're able to physically deal with it, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the knowledge is power as well, but knowledge
Yeah.
is only power if you implement it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, sitting there with the knowledge, like with my clients who I say, okay, you're going to do this, this, and this week, and then they don't do it. I've given them the knowledge, but they haven't implemented it. That's
Yeah.
definitely not power.
Yeah.
Knowledge is only power if you implement it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm very cautious about with my clients. I give them no more than 1 to 2 things to focus on a week, because any more than that, it becomes overwhelming. And then, of course, they're not going to implement it because they
Yeah.
feel like it's too much. Maybe
Too
they've,
much.
they've maybe got kids at home. They maybe got elderly parents that they're dealing with. They've maybe got a husband that's in and out and not, doesn't have a regular schedule, and they're managing the household, and things just become too much and they become
Yeah.
completely overwhelmed. And then if you're giving them a checklist to do each week, you're very much going to be bottom of the pile.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's that it will go to it becomes chore then when there's too much of it, too much to do, rather than it being a necessity, then it becomes a feeling like a chore and you'll start to resent it. So yeah, small steps.
And I think
Being
the other thing that I get of women, and I don't know whether this is an actual excuse or it's an excuse not to do it, but I get a lot still, oh, I don't want to lift weights because I'll get bulky.
okay.
Trust me, you will not get bulky. You don't have, unless you're taking testosterone that you're not
Yeah.
telling me. You will not. It is, I've been lifting weights, and I know we haven't got visual here, but the size of me, I'm tiny. Like, I wish I could get bulky.
Yeah.
Like,
Same. I'm
no.
always like, come on, where are the
Yeah.
guns?
Yeah, it's
I'm doing it.
just, I'm yet to see a woman who is not taking any kind of supplement to make her bulky get bulky by
Yeah.
lifting a couple of days a week.
It's toning, and and that's like I said, I've been lifting weights for same as you, a couple of years. Well, I haven't really ever not lifted weights, and I've never been. I can lift heavier, but I'm still not. You know, when sometimes you do a few bicep curls, I'm like, well, there must be in there somewhere. Come on.
Yeah. Like, that's why I think, God, I'm putting in all this work and I'm not bulky. What is wrong?
Yeah. Same. And you're like checking your bum in the mirror after a few squats. I'm like, no, still not
Still
there.
happening.
Still
But
not
that's
there.
what I say. That's what I say to women is we're changing things on a cellular level,
Yeah.
and cellular change takes time. But what a lot of, and I'm painting a picture here of the average client. Obviously, they don't all fall into this category, but that same woman that comes to me tired and wired, who's doing boot camp 6 days a week, only doing the HIIT, you know, that's the same woman that doesn't want to get bulky, also wants a quick fix, and doesn't and want to hear that cellular late change takes time, but it does. And that's, you know, it's that same woman that in a year's time, when we revisit her and we sit down and we check, and she'll go, oh my God, I can't. And I make a lot of my clients do a bit of, if they're in that state when they come to me, I'll go, all right, I want you to either do a written diary or a quick video diary today of how you feel. We'll do a couple of photos as well on your phone, so only you have them. You don't have to share them with anybody, even me. And then in a year of working with me, and maybe working with some of the specialists that I may refer them to, depending on what they're struggling with, we'll do another video diary and some more photos, and they'll just sit there and they'll go. Most of them burst into tears, because they'll be like, I can't believe I was in that state and that was me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so nice. And I wish this for all women. Everyone listening to this, just take a pause, have time to reflect on what you're doing. Are you tired and wired? Are you pushing yourself to do certain things? And a big fat permission slip to stop and take time to tune into what your body actually needs, you know, because and I'm speaking from experience there, that it is a game changer to not feel tired every single day. And, you know, your body feels amazing and there's no aches and pains. Like, I have less aches and pains now than I did 5 years ago. And obviously I'm 5 years older. And that is because I've changed the way that I move. I've changed the way that I eat. I've sorted out my gut. I used to suffer with really bad anxiety. Anxiety was my normal state. And I've shared a lot about this in my other podcasts, but I didn't have the knowledge of my own gut health. So I was eating crappy food. I was pushing myself to do all this exercise and also working in the day. And then I wondered why I was so anxious, to then having to stop and look at, well, actually, what am I doing to myself here? Because it's not, something's got to give. And when it gave, here I am now to live the story and, you know, sharing it with other women. So it's giving yourself that permission, you know, so you have that video in 1 year's time to be like, oh my God, look how far I've come. Because that is amazing. That's a present to yourself.
Yeah. And what, you know, women after a class sometimes approach me and they'll go, they want all the information in the 5-minute changeover that we have between classes. And I'll go, okay, I'll give you this for free. Here's my number if you want more help. But until you are walking at least 10,000 steps a day, until you are properly hydrated, until you are eating 3 meals a day of real food, and until you are, there was one other as well, doing, you know, moving in some way, shape, or form 4 days a week, there's no point in us working together, because those are you're going to waste your money working with me, because those are going to give you to do first. So a lot of people are not nailing the basics. They're taking supplements to cover up a crappy diet, or to try to cover up a crappy diet. They're maybe popping melatonin pills instead of actually addressing the root issue of their sleep.
Trying to go to sleep. Yeah.
You know, they're not actually addressing, they're taking, what is it for the gut, the probiotics and prebiotics, instead of actually address what might be going on with their gut. And that's a whole journey that I have a Jen Pike that I send everyone to work with people through that. And I've done it myself. You know, I had horrendous gut issues last year, and it was I mean, I think I'll always be working on it, but from being in A&E 3 times, doubled over in pain, to feeling like I could go out and eat a burger and be all right. It was 6 months.
Yeah. And it's crazy. If the gut health, I think, as well, is just, again, like I said, I didn't ever think about my stomach as being something that I really, you know, obviously we know that we need to watch with what you eat, but I think I went gluten-free for 2 years. I'm not anymore. I just eat whatever now, while I was trying to sort everything else out and really starting to look at how much processed food I was eating. For me, that was the thing, the convenience, the processed food. I didn't need to be gluten-free, it was all of the other stuff, but I kind of had to pick it apart. And I got a gut health coach as well to sort of say, right, you know, this is what you're doing. And it was packets of food that I thought was healthy. And I was a vegetarian at the time, and I was eating all of the, the corn and the beyond all of that. And I was like, oh, I'm healthy because I'm a vegetarian and I eat all of this food. And I actually didn't realize that it was all processed and really bad for me. And again, I know a lot of women feel, they go for this vegetarian diet and they'll be eating those things, again, thinking they're being healthy, and then wonder why they have stomach pains because the food that's inside. Because I'd be walking down the street and have the biggest cramps ever, and have to stop and like hold on to a wall.
Yeah.
This can't be right. This is too painful. Like,
whatever is going on in your gut, whether you've had a diagnosis of IBS, which isn't actually a diagnosis, is something
I did, that's
I
what
had
my doctor
exactly the
said.
same.
That's what my doctor said to me. You've got IBS, and I was like, oh, okay. I didn't anymore. Anyway, it's gone.
That's just it's an umbrella term for you've got a dodgy tummy. We don't really know what's going on. So, but we could, that's another podcast. We could go into that.
Yes,
so whatever diagnosis you've got, or gut issue you've got, or bloating you've got, it's not normal. You need to address that.
Yeah.
But it does influence every other aspect of your life. So how you move, how much energy you have, how much anxiety you have, how well you're sleeping, your periods, your hormones. It literally influences everything else in your life. And that's why I will often send people to a functional medicine practitioner, or a health specialist, pretty much at the beginning of when I start to work with them. Because I'm a firm believer that if we could all have the time and the finance to do that, the world will be a better place.
Yeah. Amazing. It's that big holistic bubble. And I feel like we've covered a bit of everything.
This is the thing. I've done so many courses and workshops that I'm like, God, I just kind of am a bit of a jack of all trades at this point.
Yeah, you are. So what I will do for the listeners, you can send me the names of the people who you recommend, and of course your details as well, for anything we've discussed today, from becoming a Pilates teacher to sorting out your gut health. And all everything. Yes. Thank you so much. And is there anything that you'd like to leave on today? Any last words? I normally ask I feel like we've covered so much though, you'll probably end up having to repeat that. If you did have a magic wand and you could just flick your magic wand, and what would your wish be for the women listening to this?
This is going to sound cliche and pretty simple, but listen to your body. Because so many of us have lost the ability to listen to our body, whether it's because we're tired and wired and we just don't want to, and we're operating on that different frequency than we used to, or whether it's because we have a fitness tracker and we'd rather believe that than the pain in our knee. But listen to your body, because pain is not normal. And the amount of people, it's common, but it's not normal. And I did a post on this yesterday that it's those whispers that you hear your body say, but you choose to ignore because it's just a whisper. It can't be that important. But it's those whispers that when you ignore them, turn into shouts, turn into screams, turn into a pathology that then you have to go and get sorted, probably with some pretty horrible medication, probably with even, some patients even require surgery. So listen to your body, because trust me, it's telling you everything you need to know if you just listen to it. And from there, ask questions, ask for help if you need it, reach out to people like me, like Joanne, we're really lucky that we work in this industry where we know a lot of very clever people and could easily refer you on or work with you. That's what you need. If
we don't know the answer, we know someone that does. We just, it's an Instagram message away as well in this day and age. It's a quick, can you help? And it's always there. So thank you so much. Thank you for joining me today.
Welcome to Women's Wealth, the podcast with me, Joanne. My mission is to educate, inspire.